Dr. Lamb?
Hey, I just checked in, make sure everybody made. I hadn't had anybody send me an email if they didn't make it, so I won't hold y'all up. Y'all get after it.
Hey,
I'll
Dr.
see you
Lamb.
again soon.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lamb.
Okay, so this should be the section, course section. If Dr. Stedman or myself is your instructor, you're in the right place. If Dr. Crawford or Dr. Hamilton is your instructor, you are not in the correct place. So you will need to log off, go back to your Blackboard, and see if you've got a link that will get you into their class.
So
Okay?
that means that you are in an O2 section, you're with your mind, or an O6 section, your mind, and if you're O4, that means you're Dr. Revis's. Now that's in number only. You belong to both of us this whole semester, so you got to put up with both of us. But it's a good thing. Some of you will be calling us Mom and Pa before the semester's over with. But
I'm the good guy. Always, I'm the good guy.
Well, she claims to be that anyway. Just like Dr. Lamb said that he was younger to me by a month, but I do claim that I'm prettier than he is. So you got to have something. But anyway, let me go ahead and I'm going to share the screen and pull our agenda up. Dr. Revis, can you see the screen? Can you see
we can see it? Yes.
Okay. Let's just go ahead and follow it as it is, Dr. Revis, and let's just move forward.
Well, first of all, I want to say welcome again. Saw many of you on last night in the town hall meeting, and I'm excited to get started working with you. We have a lot to cover tonight. And so the first thing we want to do is Dr. Stedman's going to go over some class norms. Now, when we put our classes together, we have a lot of people online. But, we'll try to get to everybody. We'll try to get all your questions answered. And we are going to leave questions to the end. So if you don't mind, let's look at our class norms and see if we can all agree to those. Dr. Stedman?
Dr. Revis, before they begin that, I want to do one thing.
Okay.
Many of you are still in the classroom still. You're still in a classroom teacher. Some of you have ventured into administration. You're in an assistant principal role. You may be in a coaching role, some role other than the classroom. And some of you may have just gone into that. But for the most part, most of you are still in the classroom. The program that you have signed up for is a master's in school administration, which means that your thinking has got to begin changing. The way you look at things has got to change. And when that change begins, it begins now. So you'll find I am the hat man. You'll see me. You see why I have to cover this up sometime. But I'm the hat man. I just love hats. But what I want you to do is I want you to call this your principal hat. Now, whatever you've got on, you've got to take off the teacher hat. You've got to take off the teacher glasses, and you've got to begin thinking as an administrator. How would an administrator look at this? So I literally want you to think about this. I said, Paulette went and got her hat. So I want you to put your teacher hat on, and I want you from this day, everything you do from now, you don't forget what it's like to be a teacher, because that's the role of an administrator. But you've got to begin thinking like an administrator. You've got to begin thinking, you'll understand better as we matriculate through this program. You'll say, oh, that's why my principal does what he does or she does. That's why they said what they said. You'll begin to understand those things much better as you begin working and thinking like a principal. And we'll call you on the carpet sometime. We'll say, no, you're thinking like a teacher. You're responding like a teacher. You've got to respond like an administrator. Would everybody please make sure you mute yourself? So let's look at the schedule.
Oh, okay, good. Sit down. That's not so good.
Okay. You will find
Dr.
this,
Stedman,
yeah.
we're getting in the chat box. A lot of you are saying you're supposed to be in C8 with Dr. Crawford. I am trying to message. I don't have his phone number, but I'm trying to message Dr. Hamilton, who's teaming with him, to see if he will go in and fix his link.
Dr.
If you don't get it fixed tonight, don't worry about it.
Let's do this right now. You go on and I will call him, and I'm going to move down to the norms, and you handle that. And let me see if I can get Dr. Okay. And you will find this under week 1 in Blackboard. But Dr. Evans, if you go on over that, let me see if I can get him.
Okay. Let's look at our norms while he's trying to work on this. And we apologize, guys. Sometimes things get a little crazy at the first. So when we're online in class together, of course, it goes without saying that we want you to be respectful of your peers and instructors. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that you have to make sure that you are muted unless you are asked to unmute to speak by the instructor. So that's something that we all have to kind of keep in mind, that we see the little microphone with a slash at the bottom of our little picture screen. And that's just being respectful because we all are at home. Well, some of you may be in your still at school, but most of the time at this time of the evening, we're at home, we have families. And so we just need to be respectful for other people. I know they're going to interrupt, your children may interrupt you, but we don't want them interrupting other people as well.
Dr. Evans, let me stop. If you are in Dr. Crawford's CA class, go ahead and sign off, go into your Blackboard, and he said that it was there, but he's going to make it very obvious for you. So go ahead, if you're in C8, sign off and go to your Blackboard, and you should be able to find his link to get in their session. We'd love to have you, but you belong to them.
Okay, so we'd love to see your video on. It's great to see you, and it just gives us an opportunity to put some names and faces together. So always have your video on. Make sure you're always dressed presentably during your Zoom. We like to see you, avoid being in your pajamas if you can, and just be presentable like if you were going to class somewhere. Please just let your family and other people know that you're online. And if you're like me, sometimes when my grandchildren are here, I even have to lock my office door. That's still not a sure thing, but I do lock my office door. We ask that you hold all questions until the end of class. Just write them down on your notepad. Most of the time, we will get to your questions. But if you need us to go back over something at the end of class, we will be fine doing that.
And Dr.
We ask
what that does too, at the end of class, if everybody does not, if you've got it, you don't have to hang around, and then only the ones that need attention at the end have to remain. But the others, if you've got it, you can move on and you can move about your business. So that's why we choose to do that.
Right. And we ask that you don't put your questions in the chat. We're talking and working with you, but just write them down. If you're putting things in chat, guess where everybody's attention is? Following that chat, right? Instead of listening and trying to absorb the material. So those are our class norms. And if you could give me a thumbs up, if we all can agree to that.
Okay. I think we're good, Dr.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's look back again. You can find this under week 1 for tonight's reference and for future reference, your next, I'm going to I'm going to bring up, let's see, Zoom team assignment so that we can make you aware of what that looks like. And let me see.
Dr.
let me-
Stedman,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Some of us are seeing a black screen. Do you have any advice on what might be going on? Not everyone is, but some of us are seeing a black screen.
Mm.
I don't know.
I would say go out and come back in.
That's what I would try, Paulette. Try to go out and come back in. And anybody, I have no idea why, because Dr. Revis, you can see it, right?
I sure can.
Okay. Okay, in Blackboard, and most of you have seen this already, if you go to Zoom Teams, you click on that, and these are going to be your Zoom team. These are the people that you're going to be working with semester. Now, I've already had to make some changes to that with some people that have dropped out, and up until your first assignment, this could possibly change so that we can keep teams balanced.
Now
But-
this is Dr. Stedman's class.
Right.
So if you're in my class and you don't see your name here, don't get all wigged out.
Right. This is just
Go
this,
to
this
our
is
class.
the C2 class.
Okay.
So team one would be Tanya, LaShonda, Danya, Caroline, and Sean. And if Danya's here, let me know, because I have not heard from Danya yet. So let me know if you're with us tonight. And then team two, these are the people that you're going to be working with when it comes to Zoom and team activities. Your peer reviews that you'll learn about later on will become a part of that. When you do your case studies will you'll be working with your teams, and for the most part, you will follow this team throughout this entire program. It will go with you next semester and your last semester as well. So these are your Zoom teams. Now, underneath that, I want you to look underneath that. This is actually, many of you have found it. Some of you may not have found it. This is your first assignment. It says upload your contact information here for your team members. And then it tells you what to do. You click on that and it gives you the ability to put it in there. This lets your team members know who you are, something about you, who they're working with, give them the ability to comment back to you. But it also lets Dr. Revis and me know that you're in the system and that you know how to manipulate things. Plus, it tells us some things about you as well. It's worth 1 point, and all it is an awareness for us, an awareness for you, an awareness for your team. So if you're in C4, Dr. Revis's class, you just go to Zoom Teams and you find who you're with, respond to this assignment, and if you're in C6, you do likewise. Let me come out of that and come back to our agenda. Okay, next we want to just look over Blackboard very briefly tonight. We're just going to many of you have worked with this platform before, but we don't want to take for granted that you know something that you don't know. So I'm going to come back in, and it's important that, when you go to course overview, naturally, that gives you your, that's the first page, is where Dr. Revis and I welcome you to the class. We tell you something about us. Your syllabus is there. The grading scale is there, and it's important that you read and understand all that. Your first step. Now, most of you have completed your enrollment verification activity. If you have not, that is a must. If you are completing an online class, you have to do the complete enrollment verification activity. And this is a part of Gardner-Webb's requirements. So if you haven't done that, it's a very quick process. Go in there and take care of that. And then the next steps, most of you should have ordered your textbooks already. If you haven't, you need to take care of that. Schedule calendar for your weekly Zoom sessions. You need to go in and look at that, and you need to go ahead and mark it down. We come online every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. It's important, as Dr. Lamb said yesterday, that you join us live as much as possible, because Dr. Revis and I are going to share things that's honestly, you learn it better if you hear it from us. We're going to record it, and we'll place that recording under each week, and you can go back and review it. If for some reason you've got a school activity that doesn't allow you to be there, you can review. I would encourage you, review it before you go to bed that night, because what will happen the next day, you'll get busy with life, and you put it off, and it gets you behind. So it's important that if you cannot be with us on that Tuesday night, that you review it before you go to bed that night. And I would make that a standing practice. The same thing if for the first 4 weeks, we have coaching sessions on Thursday night, and you'll find out how valuable those coaching sessions are. Then it tapers off until week 8, and we come back again after you complete the first evidence, and we give you one coaching night. And we'll come back if we need to, but for the most part, we don't have to after that. And things begin to begin to streamline after that. And we're only here on the Tuesday nights, and we actually give you a couple of Tuesday nights off so that you can catch up and work with your teams. These are your textbooks, and then, as was mentioned last evening, these are your textbooks, and then this is the seventh edition of your APA manual, and it's important that you get that. I'm just going to tell you, if you haven't gone through the Bulldog Bundle program, I would encourage you to look for these through Amazon or somewhere else. You can get them cheaper. And if you can save money, by all means, save money. And if you go through Amazon, usually they ship them out that night or the next day. You get them pretty quickly. These are your recurring links, and Dr. Revis, I went back and put them under each week as well. So they're in 2 places, but use this same link every week to join us for Tuesday night. And on Thursday nights, this is the link that you will join. But this is your Dover Library link that we'll talk about later on. And then this is other information. And always look at this course overview page for information that you may need. Again, this is where your grades are at all times. Once you start doing assignments, you can go in My Grades, and you can keep a check with that. Attendance belongs to Dr. Revis and me, and attendance is not taken because you're present tonight. Attendance always is taken on Monday morning by Dr. Revis and me. We typically could do it on Sunday night, but we wait until Monday morning. And assignments that are due by Sunday evening, by Monday morning, we're taking attendance. And attendance is whether you turn your assignment in on time or not. That's how we take attendance. And after 3 times that you are marked absent, the university is out of our hands. The university begins to contact you, and they let you know that you are in danger of academic failure because of the 3 absences. So please do not let that happen to you. It's a Christian university, and this tells all about it. You can look at that yourself. The support services, you need to look at that. Tech support, if you're having problems, this tells you where to go. If you're having problems with Blackboard, this tells you where to go. These are where your handbooks are, and your handbooks Again, it's your MSA scale handbook. This is, all about the MSA program. Your site supervisor handbook. You need to make sure that your site supervisor has this information. This is your clinical internship handbook. And then this is a document that we will refer to later on. Probably next week, Dr. Revis will remind them something about their internship requirements. I think it'll be too much tonight, but this is something that we have developed that's going to help you better understand your internship requirements. But like I said, we'll talk about that more next week. Again, this is the Zoom tutorial, Zoom Teams. Your MSA syllabus again is there. This is your weekly class schedule. You're going to find this in more than one place. And again, these are your Zoom links. And then under this, you're going to get weekly schedule. This is going to also give you other information about our town halls and just other information. You'll find some of the information in multiple places. And that's by design so that, what works for one person does not work for somebody else. This is your weekly class schedule. And under that, well, that's what I just said. Let me see.
I think it's right at the top there, Dr. Stedman.
Yeah, I was just looking for something else. I'm going to click on that. Oh, man. I don't know what happened. Let me see. I don't know what happened. Let me come back out. I'm sorry. I hit something wrong. Your weekly schedule. Here it is. Weekly class schedule. Okay. There. Now let me see if that's going to work for me. And I would encourage you, you've got this, technology's good. And, but I would encourage you as much as possible. You may want to download some of these things and have them readily available when you can't get to a computer real fast, and just have it in by your desk or your workstation. But this is week one. This is what week one is going to look like. These are the topics that we'll cover. These are the resources that you'll read, and some of this you got to do on your own. These are assignments, and again, where you see these live links, this is information that not tonight, but on your own. You need to read these, because guess what? It's all about how to help you get started with your PLCs. All about PLCs. How to set up your Zoom account if you don't know, but everybody should be experts at Zoom. And then what you see in red tells you that task one that we're going to go over tonight is going to be the draft is due week 2. So this gets you started. It also tells you at the bottom when all assignments are due. Now it says assignments due to Blackboard no later than 6:00 p.m. on this Sunday. The only assignment that you will actually have due is remember where I went to the Zoom and it said to put your contact information in there for 1 point. If you haven't done that, that actually is the only assignment that you need to have completed by this Sunday. But this is where you will always see when your assignments are due, and they will always be no later than Sunday at 6:00 p.m. And that'll be the information that you will find at the bottom of this assignment page. Remember, a lot of this information, the reading is independently, is on your own. We will refer to it at times, but we do not have time in this program to spend a lot of time, back and forth with that. Now, what I would suggest you do, because I'm not going to go any further with that tonight, you need to take every one of those links and you on Blackboard, and you need to go through each one, and you need to study it and see exactly what it is that you're supposed to do. Okay.
And Dr. Stedman, what happens if I don't meet my 6 o'clock deadline on Sunday evening with my assignment for the week?
Okay. Automatically remember that that is your attendance for the week. So that means that you're going to be counted absent. Plus, when you turn an assignment in late, that means that Dr. Revis and I cannot give you full credit for it. Okay. So if you were going to get 100 on it, you cannot get 100 on it because your assignment was not turned in a timely manner. And I'm going to tell you why. You're going to be working with teams. Now, if, and I'm looking at this, I see Amber and Antonio working together. I'm just saying that because I see them on the screen. Let's say that Amber, Antonio, and whoever else is under there, is that you're in Zoom teams together. Elizabeth, Stacy, whoever, Wendy, that you're in a team. And let's just say that you're doing a peer review that we'll talk about. And you don't get your peer review in on time. Well, guess what? That's going to hold. If Antonio is supposed to do a peer review for Amber and he doesn't do his peer review, guess what? Amber can't get the feedback from Antonio to be able to use it to complete her work. And that's not fair to Amber. So Antonio could do a top-notch peer review when he decides to turn it in, but it's after the fact. And he got the experience of doing a peer review, but it didn't help Amber with her work. It's not fair to Amber. So I have to take off points from Antonio's work for being late. And so it's important working with your Zoom teams and getting work in on time. Plus, now, Dr. Revis and I, we set aside a lot of our weekends. A lot of you will not wait until Sunday evening at 6 o'clock to turn your work in. You're going to finish it and you're going to go ahead and turn it in to us anytime during that week. You don't have to wait until then. And I would advise you, when you know that it's ready to turn in to us, that you go ahead and turn it in, because we can go ahead and look at it and we can give you quicker feedback on it. Because the work that you turn in initially for review is for review, and we give you a grade on it, but we give you a chance to fix it and resubmit it so that it is as perfect a document as it can for the final submission, because at the end of the day, you're going to put all of this together in what we're going to call an evidence one that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. So you have a chance to make it right. Now, how many times do I get a chance to make it right? One time, hopefully. 2 times, maybe. But after that, then, you're in the ditches. So, you've got to make sure that when you do your work, that you try to make it as perfect the first time as you possibly can. But again, if there's issues with it, we point out the issues. Your peers point out issues that they see as well. And you take all of this feedback and you take it to make the final corrections on the document that you will submit the next week for a final grade. You think I answered that, Dr. Revis?
I think so. The main thing we want to say is, guys, you heard Dr. Lamb say last evening, you're going to spend 20 hours a week in this program, and you got to bank on that. And, I suggest that you don't try to be a weekend warrior, that you try to work some every evening. If you don't, you're going to get behind.
Right.
Because it is an accelerated program. It just kind of snowballs before you realize it. So you have to stay up with your timelines and deadlines. You will see that there's a routine to when things are due. but it's going to take you about 2 to 3 weeks to understand the routine. But just give yourself some time and grace right now, and always try to work ahead. That's your goal. As an administrator, you want to work ahead. As a principal, I want to be the first one to turn in my report. I want to be the first one to respond to the superintendent, because that says something. I know how to manage my time, and I put first things first. So you've got to be an outstanding organizer and time manager in this program, and as a school administrator. So, the only thing you've got to do this week is start preparing for your first task that is due at the end on Sunday evening at the end of week 2. But we're going to front load you so you can get started on it. Well, you got to put in your contact information, but many of you already have done that.
Right.
So, we are going to front load you a little bit with some information so you can go ahead right now and start working on your first assignment.
And Dr. Revis, if you'll pull up your PowerPoint and let me talk
will.
to them while you're pulling that up.
I'm going to share my screen.
Let me explain to you, students, what tonight and Thursday is going to look like. Remember, those of you that joined us last evening, I told you not to be afraid that what you're seeing right now is the whole elephant, and we're going to teach you how to eat that elephant, one bite at a time. What we're going to do on Thursday night is you will have 6 evidences throughout this program. 2 evidences you will complete this semester with Dr. Revis and me, and we're going to begin evidence 1 this evening. Evidence 1 being that, and we use the acronym AAPSL, which is the Analysis and Action Plan for Student Learning. You always begin an education with the student in mind. And then we move to the second part of the semester to teachers, because teachers teach students. Teachers work with students. You work with teachers. So you've got to learn as a teacher what it's like as an administrator to work with teachers. So that's what the second half is going to look like. We're going to Thursday evening, all of us are going to come online. We're going to talk about the whole elephant on Thursday night, because you need to know, you need to begin this work knowing what the end result should look like. So we're going to give you the whole elephant on Thursday night. And then we're going to back off and we're going to teach you how to eat that elephant for evidence 1 bite at a time. However, tonight we're going to like Dr. Revis said, we're going to front load you with some things so that you can go ahead and get started and get ahead of the game. Many of you already work with professional learning communities. All of you probably do, but that's going to be your main responsibility. You've got to become the leader. You've got to be a leader in organizing and carrying out a new PLC. And with school just starting, this is a wonderful time, Dr. Revis, for them to be able to talk with their administrator or their site supervisor and to be able to get this done. But Dr. Revis is going to talk about the professional learning community. Then we're going to begin looking at what task 1 of evidence 1, the AAPSL, looks like. Dr. Revis?
So one of the things I like about the Gardner Webb program is that all the assignments that you're going to be doing this semester are assignments that you would do as a school administrator. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about professional learning communities. Now, friends, we call every meeting a professional learning community, but for purposes of this course, we are going to use the DeFore and Acre professional learning communities model. So You may be saying that you're going to attend a PLC, but it may not really be a PLC unless you are focusing on learning, student learning, and a commitment to the learning of each student. So you may be getting together and talking about administrative things, planning together as a grade level, but unless you're focused on student learning and making a commitment that every student learns, you're not really doing a PLC in our definition. Again, this is to 4, and you look at the date, that's kind of dated, but this is called seminal work. These authors are the ones that came up with, wrote a lot about PLCs. So there are 3 big ideas within this model: a focus on student learning for all students, a culture of collaboration, and a focus on results. So you're beginning probably your PLCs. You will have to establish a PLC in your school and you as the leader. And we'll talk about that as task 1. But you're going to be working in PLCs all through this program. But you have to be the leader or the facilitator. But the PLC is about student learning. We're collaborating around our results and what our data sets say to us, and we're focused on those results.
Dr. Revis, and when you begin your narrative work that we'll talk about in a few minutes, you always put it in the first person and you talk about yourself as the leader. I did this. I did this. The team and I did this. But you always make sure that you show yourself leading a team of people. The leader aspect of things must come out in all of your narrative work.
Again, with this model, there are 3 big questions. What do we want students to learn? How will we know they've learned it? And how will we respond when students experience difficulty in learning? Now, creating collaborative culture does not come naturally. So when you first convene your new PLC, and it can be a PLC within your grade level, across grade levels, but we're going to focus on student learning. You're going to look at your student performance and growth data from last spring. Collaboration just does not come naturally. You have to build that with an atmosphere. You have to build an atmosphere of trust in order to facilitate that collaboration. You as a leader have that responsibility to build that trust. At the beginning of your PLC, you need to have your members agree on how we're going to operate. These are called norms, just like we agreed on our class norms. We need to find a way that we agree that we're going to make decisions and come to a consensus. How will we agree to disagree? How will we agree to communicate? And how will we communicate information after, excuse me, I went a little quick there. After this meeting is over, how are we going to communicate back and forth as a team? What information as this team are we going to say is confidential and does not get talked about outside of this team? Of course, if you're talking about student learning data, that needs to be kept confidential. If you're sharing your student learning data with the team, that all needs to be kept confidential. Of course, it's public knowledge in a sense, maybe not drilled down to your individual student performance data, but we're going to build trust. We're going to learn how to make decisions within our team. We're going to agree how to communicate, and we're going to agree about our confidential information. So we're results oriented and we focus on tangible results. And the results that we're going to talk about in our first PLC will be our student growth and student performance results. You're going to set some short-term and long-term goals of how to improve those results. And we're going to come back and examine the results frequently throughout your semester or year. So what we're teaching you is we're emulating a small-scale school improvement process, if you will. You're going to look at your current state of learning. You're going to analyze student results from this past spring. You're going to investigate and research, really research, not just ask friends or call another school. You're going to look at the research. If my area of concern might be that we need to improve our third grade reading scores and comprehension, I'm going to research what are the issues leading, or what are the causes of poor reading comprehension for students. And you're going to share those strategies. Then you'll decide as a team how you're going to implement them, what you're going to implement, when you're going to examine the impact, and then you apply new knowledge, and the cycle is continuous. You keep going with that. So all teams are potentially dysfunctional. And typically that happens when teams lack norms. So one of the first things you do when you gather your new PLC is you set the norms and you agree upon them. You don't set them as a leader. It should be something that you agree on through a discussion that you're facilitating with your team. Lack of team goals is another way for a team to go south. But probably the biggest one is lack of trust. Making sure you build that trust in the beginning, and that comes with building some of those norms, a lack of communication, and a lack of focus on student learning outcomes. So the L in PLC is professional learning for educators. When you are gathered together looking at your state standards, you may be looking at it through the lens of your assessment, but they're aligned to your curriculum standards. There is no more powerful way to learn your standards than to really be talking about those with your colleagues in a PLC. What does this standard mean? What kind of student work can we expect? What are some examples of student assessments that we might want to use to gauge student success on these standards? You will learn so much as an educator and as a teacher, educator, when you dive into your standards and into the assessments. And here are just some other resources that were shared by Dr. Stone. These are a couple years old. I don't really know if these all work or are active right now, but you can find them in this PowerPoint that's listed in week 1. You can have all this. Guys, you can even, if you wish, take this PowerPoint and use it in your first PLC. If you want to use any of these screens to talk about what is a PLC, we may have been operating on what our PLC may be in our school, but for purposes of this class and for this task, this is the model you must use. And if you want to share any of this information, you certainly can when you get when you meet with your PLC the first time.
Okay.
Dr. Stedman, what did I leave out?
Nothing. I think that's a good segue into, let me go back to, give me 1 second. Let me go back to, back here. Okay. Let's, and many of you have, before I go into the next part, I want us to look for evidence one, there's lots of resources here. And Dr. Revis and Dr. Hamilton will talk about this more, but these are some APA format materials that you'll need to familiarize yourself with, and we'll talk about that more after this week. This tells you what the first evidence looks like, what the tasks look like, what the prompts look like. This is the section that you need to camp out at. It's called the AAPSL template and materials section. This is where pretty much everything that you need to get started, you'll find it there. And I'm just going to open it up, and then I'm going to pull some of the things up. Do you see what you're going to hear us talk about? The AAPSL template. Now, this is the only time that you're going to get a template. We give it to you with the AAPSL, but after this, you have to take what you learn from the AAPSL and you have to build your own template after this first evidence. The AAPSL Helpful Hints document. This should become almost like your Bible in this program and working with this evidence. And we're going to pull that up in it. We've given you a completed sample of what the AAPSL should look like. A completed AAPSL should look like. This, and I'll pull this document up in a few minutes. After we get through, we simplified it. How to begin task one of the AAPSL, step by step. And then Dr. Lamb will refer to this at a later time, but I'm not going to address that now. But what I want to do now is, Dr. Evans, I want to pull up. Let me see. I'm going to pull up okay, let's go with the template. Okay, this is non-negotiable. This is what Gardner-Webb says that you have to follow this template. This is how you get started with task one, evidence one. Evidence one, this is your cover page. Now, the only thing you have to do on this cover page is everything else, if it's in black, it stays. Your name here. So on that's your cover page. You're going to put your name there, and then you're going to move forward. Okay, let's look at this. With the template, this is important. Now, this is for information only right here. Once you start your work, when you begin your work, all of this right here, where you see me circling, you take all of this out. This is for information. However, where the purpose is, that is part of the template, it stays. If it's in black, it stays. So let's start it this way. If you see something highlighted in the template in yellow, that means you've got to do some narrative work. You've got to write something there. So all highlighted yellow. Now you're going to write something there, but guess what? You're going to take all the yellow highlighting out when you submit your work. If you see something in red, those are just reminders of things that you can add to this narrative work. Once you decide what you're going to add and what you're not going to add, you take that red out. That's just, those are helpful aids along the way. And then again, if it's black, it stays there. You do not take it out. For example, you begin with school profile. Now, school profile, and that should have been capitalized, Dr. Revis. School profile. That's how you're going to begin. You're going to tell the story of your school, and we'll talk about this more on Thursday night. But that means you see it in yellow. So what are you going to do? That means you've got to write something, right? So you're going to have a heading, school profile, and then you're going to tell about your school. That's the first thing that you're going to do. And then we get into task one of the AAPSL. That's your first assignment. Task one, prompt 1. Now again, if it's in black, you're gonna rewrite. The template stays the same if it's in black. Then look down here, prompt 1, and we'll review this in just a moment and with the helpful hints. But if it's in black, you're going to write it. And then PLC research, that means you've got to do something. It's yellow, that means you're going to do some narrative work. This is red. These are some suggestions of things that you can use, but you're going to take it out once you do your narrative work. And the same thing follows all the way through with task 1. There are actually 3 headings of things that you've got to do: PLC research, PLC selection, and PLC meeting. Again, the template is non-negotiable, and it is found in your your AAPSL template and materials section for your use. Now, this is a document that you're going to want to copy and keep at your side at all times. This is the helpful hints document, and what it does, it takes the instructions in the template and it breaks it down into layman's terms and tells you exactly what it is that you need to do. So, Dr. Revis, let's begin by talking about what evidence 1, how to get started. Let's talk about that.
Okay. All right. Evidence 1 is, again, we call it the AAPSL. It stands for Analysis and Action Plan for Student Learning. So the first thing you do is have a conversation with your principal, and that needs to start this week. And you need to tell the principal that you have to convene a PLC around student performance and growth data.
Dr. Revis, let me tell them something too. Your clinical coach 1 is going to make contact with you and your administration, and they will also go over this with your principal when they have either their virtual visit or their site visit, and they will explain to them and help them understand this process of what you've got to do as well.
Now, the first thing that a lot of people want to do is look at behavior. This is not about student behavior. This is not about student attendance. This is about student learning data. Your state report card for your growth and your performance. This is what you're convening a PLC around. So make sure that you share that with your principal and that he knows that. So you're asking permission to formulate a PLC of your peers. And again, you're going to lead that PLC. Continue to work with an existing PLC is not acceptable. There may be some exceptions, but typically we want to see you forming a new PLC. Now, let's say that you are an 8th grade English language arts teacher. Who would you want to form a PLC with? Well, I would think other 8th grade English language arts teachers. And because you're going to be delving into your school ELA/reading data. If you are a 3rd grade teacher, you may talk to your principal about, do you want me to really look at my reading data or the math data? They may guide you in one way or the other, and that's fine. But it still has to be an area where you've got student performance data. Let's say I'm a high school CTE teacher. You still are going to have to look at student learning performance data. That one gets a little tricky. So you're still going to have to look at maybe your Math 1 data or your English 1 data. Or I guess you could look at ACT data. but you're looking at data that you can delve into as a school that talks about student learning. Now, I want you to be thinking about who would I want to be on my PLC, and what student learning data do I want to delve into? And you can ask some of those questions after we finish the presentation tonight. But you need to have that discussion with your principal within the next couple days.
And
Okay?
Dr. Revis, you need to make sure, again, just reiterating what Dr. Revis was saying, whatever your focus is, it must be able to be measured by some type of test, some type of a test, whether it's EOG, EOC, whatever you use. There must be something measurable with whatever the outcome is. And again, you may you're going to talk with your principal, but then again, these have got to become artifacts for this first evidence. So you're actually going to, even though you talk to them, you're going to put it in writing to them. This can be through an email request explaining what this process is, what you've got to do, and you've got to get an affirmative response back, and you will actually take pictures of those down, put those in as artifacts in the work that you will turn in to prove to us that you have led that process successfully.
Okay. And so this number 4 refers back to the template that Dr. Stedman talked about. And remember, if it's in yellow, you got to put your name there and you need to write something. The other thing that you need to work on this week, it's very easy, the school profile. Guys, you've got school profiles all in your school improvement plans and your accreditation plans. You can take information from there, but just make sure it's up to date. So that's another thing. Thinking about the PLC, getting permission to do that, and writing your school profile. Now, those are not due this week, but you need to get this stuff going so you will have task 1 ready by the end of next week. And then what I like about this helpful hints, it goes right through and gives you an actual example of a school profile. Now, typically we say don't put real names in your school profile, but so this person just put the school initials. I don't know who that is or where it is. Well, they do say Huntersville, North Carolina, but they go through and they give you a great picture of the school. Tell about your school.
And and this is going to be different for different people. Some of the demographics is going to be, similar, but there may be something historically significant about your school, and that's a part of the school story. Why is the school named at what it's named after? When was it? There's some histories, rich histories behind some of the schools. This becomes part of the story, so tell that story in that as well. But this again is an example of an excellent example of how to get started with that.
And notice could you scroll back up just a second, please? You notice that we have some demographics about the students. That tells us a good picture of your story. You notice in the previous paragraph, demographics about your teachers. And look at that first paragraph. According to the 2018-19 report card, give a summary of your latest student performance data. Just a summary, that's all. And you'll get more into that later on in your other tasks. So you're getting ready.
I will tell you, all of these are not APA perfect either. Some of them, because we pulled this from a student, actually right there, Dr. Revis, that is incorrect, because you don't ever begin a sentence with a percentage, a number percentage. with APA. So that is incorrect. So don't look at these as being 100%. It's just a guide for you to go by, but there are some imperfections with it.
Right. And if you're not, up on your APA, we will get you there. And you have to learn it. We don't just tell you what to do. We'll refer you back to the manual, but you got to learn it, folks.
Okay. So that leads into getting started. How to get started, task 1, prompt 1. So let's look at that. This is your heading. I'm going to use this heading. This is going to be at the top of your paper. Your heading is PLC research. So you're going to write it just like this, PLC research. And then you're going to do the research. This is what it consists of. Your research must be APA style. It must address what is a PLC. What does a PLC look like? How is a PLC to be conducted, etc. You must have a minimum of 3 sources, and those sources must be identified within the narrative work, APA style. And as Dr. Revis has already said, one of the 3 sources must be a reference to Dufour, because that is where the seminal research comes from. These same sources and any other used in task 1 will also be placed at the end of task 1 under a reference section, APA style. You must describe your PLC design in this narrative work. In other words, if I went in to observe your PLC, what should I expect to see? Dr. Revis, any comments further about that before we go any further?
I don't think so. You have some resources in your course shell that you can use, but you can also go to the Dover Library and we will show you how to do that either on a Thursday, either this coming Thursday night. I don't know if we get to it this Thursday night, but we will show you how to do that. There's a link to Dover Library, several places within our course shell, but you have to find research.
Right.
Okay.
But look what we've done. We've given you an example of how to get started. There's your heading, PLC research, aligned to the left. And this tells you a professional learning community, what it is. According to Dufour et al., you see, we've helped you see how to get started. Now, you're not to go back and regurgitate that. Some of the information may be included in, but this is just a model for you to go by.
And so when I'm scoring this, I make sure you've got 3 total references in this section, and one of them has to be Dufour. Now, you don't need to, it needs to be 3 distinctly different resources. Okay. You can't use the same ones over and over.
And again, make sure that you are following APA 7th edition. Now, I will tell you, some of you will say, okay, well, I'm going to look for one of those unique programs that they've got on the computer that will do APA for me. Wrong. It will do it incorrectly for you. I can promise you that. Most of them do not get the commas correctly. If you stick with that, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be able to put that in there yourself. So don't depend on a program to do it for you. Okay, that's the first thing you do. You do your PLC research with 3 references. Then Dr. Revis, what did they do next? Number 2.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Number 2, the second section is you talk about your PLC selection. Now, you may want to talk this over with your principal, but I always like to go into my boss with an idea or a suggestion. Here's what I'm thinking about. These are the people I think I want to have on my PLC, because I want us to dive into our reading scores or our science scores or whatever. But you're going to talk about who's going to serve on that PLC, why you chose them, what expertise that they will bring to the table during your PLC. And then here's your example. And notice that I think this person just talked about, they just gave initials for the teachers' names.
Right.
You could say teacher A, teacher 1, teacher 2, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Either way, I've accepted the names before. It doesn't bother me, you know. And then the third thing you do, you're actually going to have a meeting. You're going to meet with your PLC, and the title is going to be PLC meeting. The candidate leads the PLC in a meeting to discuss. Again, it goes back to what Dr. Revis said earlier in the PowerPoint. You're going to talk about the PLC's vision and purpose. You're going to establish norms. Now, guess what? If you go back and you look at those links that we've given you, we've already put the information in there that tells you what those norms should look like. So you go in there with some suggestions, but you let them create some as well, and you vote on them. There are resources in your course shell to assist with this process. However, you are responsible for completing your own research. And again, this is an example of holding the meeting and just doing the narrative work of what happened during that meeting. And then your fourth section, you're going to have a reference section. And guess how many references you're going to have at a minimum? Now go back to number 1. How many references must you have in your research? A minimum of how many? Somebody hold up your fingers. 3. So you know you're going to have a minimum of 3 there. Now you may end up with 5, in your research. It doesn't matter, but you know that you're going to have a minimum of 3, and one of those 3 must be who? To 4. Okay. And then after that, you will always have your appendices. Now, what does your appendices include? This includes artifacts used in the task. At a minimum, you should have a copy of your email getting permission, asking to do the PLC, and permission to conduct the PLC. That should come under your appendices. Dr. Revis, what else would come up under the appendices for this first task?
Okay. Well, you need to have a screenshot of, like we've said before, of the permission to form a PLC and your principal's affirmative response.
And you see, this is an example of it right here.
Mm-hmm. You always need to have a PLC agenda that you put together. And this person put his meeting agenda, members in attendance, and also the meeting minutes in the same document. So that becomes an artifact that shows that you have planned and prepared for the meeting. And so those are the minimal, what I like to see as well. And anytime you get together with a PLC, gosh, take a picture, because you can use that as an evidence, that an artifact that you use to build your competency folios or for this work.
Now, notice what it says. It says Appendix A, Appendix B. And Dr. Revis, I think we'll wait. We'll talk about this later on. I think that's too much, but I want to stop that, and then I want to show you. And now these documents, all of them are in your Blackboard shell. I want to show you something else that we've made it even. Okay, I went back and I created this document. Everything that we've talked about, we simplified it into this one document. We begin task 1 of the AAPSL. This goes back to everything that we've just said. You use the AAPSL template found in Blackboard under AAPSL template and materials. You review the AAPSL example that's found under template and materials. You use the AAPSL helpful hints that we're showing you right now that can be found there. You have a dialogue with your site supervisor concerning the requirements to lead a PLC this semester. You explain to them what you're doing. You let them know you will be asking teachers and staff and possibly administration to be a part of the PLC. And you'll need to put this in request in writing even though you may speak directly to them, as we said, and you're going to use those as artifacts, those emails as artifacts. You complete your school profile. This is the story of your school. And then again, we've taken each of those task 1, prompt 1, and those 3 things that you've got to do. And we have 5 things. We've explained it again right there. This is how you will begin your work with Evidence 1, AAPSL 1, and get started. Everything you need can be found in Blackboard.
Now, one thing I want to reiterate, what I would encourage you and just really try to push you to do this week, get permission to do your PLC and form your PLC and work on your school profile. Okay. You have all kinds of resources to do that. And
let me pull some back up. Go ahead.
Then your PLC, some of you might be thinking, well, how many times am I going to meet with my PLC? You need to let your PLC members know you're going to be meeting out every week for the first how many weeks? 4 weeks, Dr. Stedman?
Yes, I would think for the first 4 weeks, getting through. I mean, we said that the first 4 weeks are going to be pretty loaded.
Yeah. So get somebody who's going to make a commitment to work with you. Those meetings do not have to be face to face. If you want to do a PLC virtually, that's fine. We all know and love our virtual meetings now, and that is fine. But this week, work on your school profile. You can do that by yourself, and nobody else has to help you. And get your PLC squared away and go ahead. I would go ahead and set my first meeting for maybe Tuesday of next week. Wouldn't you think so, Dr.
I would at the latest.
At the latest, you want to have this first meeting by Tuesday of next week. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh, how am I going to get people to work with me? I promise you, you will and you can, because others have done it. And I know it's the beginning of school and you really are reluctant to put one more thing on somebody's plate. But use your leadership skills to convince your colleagues or a group of your colleagues to join you through this process.
And you want good people on your team, people that's going to work with you, people that relate to you. I wouldn't ask negative Nancy's to be on my team if I didn't have to. So, don't get people that's going to slow the process down or create problems for you. This is your opportunity to find the right people. Now, I want you to look at this on your, and we've done this for your convenience. Again, this is on the agenda. This tells you exactly where you should be at the end of week 1. By Sunday evening, this right here again, the only thing you've got to upload is that contact information. I would have already read these live links that we've prepared for you, and I would pull the information that I wanted to include. I would encourage you, as Dr. Revis said, at a minimum, go ahead and knock as much of this out as you can. You'll feel good if when you go home on Friday, if you've already got the majority of this laid out and ready to start when you get back on Monday morning. Is as much of this as you can knock out is going to make life easier for you. And honestly, once you let me stop my share. Once you get into the routine of this, now you think, God, how am I going to do this? I promise you, and I said this last night, I promise you, and Dr. Revis promises you, after you have gone through, I would say 3 weeks, Dr. Revis, some maybe 4 weeks, but at the most 4 weeks, it becomes a part of your life. How many of you have children? You remember your first baby. You thought, how in the world am I going to add another human life into my busy schedule? But guess what? That baby become a part of your life, and you figured out how to do everything that you always did, and you had the baby there too. You know, and then you added another one, some of you did. So we learned how to do things, but we had to get used to it. It didn't just happen, Letitia, overnight, did it? You had to get used to that, didn't you? It was a big learning curve becoming a mama. When we got married, it was, those of us that are married, it was a big adjustment getting used to somebody. I lived by myself for 11 years, and to change and to live, it was a big, but it took time, but I got used to it. That's what will happen over the next 3 or 4 weeks. The transformation will begin occurring. You'll get used to it. You'll get used to a routine, and we're going to help you with that. Now, what I want you to do is, some of you are probably already thinking, I know, I can see it. Some of you are thinking, I don't know if I want to do this or not. But you wouldn't have signed up for this if it was not something you wanted to do. Give it the right opportunity. Now, what I want you to do, if you feel like that you're on the ledge and you're about to jump off, call Dr. Revis and me. Don't make any decision without talking to us first and letting us at least talk you through it. If you are feeling the anxiety that I can't do, you can do this. We have saved a lot of people from jumping off the ledge, and they have successfully completed this program. If you work with us, we'll get you through this.
Now, some of you may be in district level positions
Right.
already, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. We've worked with people
Right.
before. You just have to find a school and a principal who's willing to let you work within their building. We've had school counselors, a lot of school counselors come into this program, and they're not accustomed to meeting and working with teachers in a PLC. And that's okay, because guess what? When you become a school administrator, you're going to be working with people you're not accustomed to be working with. You've got to get over that. And you've got to, we're pushing you out of your comfort zone for some of you. Now, if you're an instructional coach, you've done PLCs and you know how to do them and you feel very comfortable with them. But if you've not had that experience, we're going to push you out of your comfort zone. We are pushing and forcing you to become a school leader. And you got to get out of that comfort zone. You got to ask people. When you're a school principal, you're going to have to ask people to do things that you know very good and well they don't want to do. This is where it starts. This first PLC. Convince them. Sell it to them. You know, we're in this, we sell stuff to our students all the time, don't we? You got to sell it to the adults. Why this is important, how this is going to help our students, etc.
Now, this is what I want you to do. You've got our phone numbers. It's on our course syllabus, but I'm going to give you mine now. It's 910-633-4816. Now, I work a full-time job. I retired from public education, stayed out 6 months, and went back to work full-time, and been working forever since then. I don't know when I'll go home. I love what I do. And Dr. Revis builds houses, and she has grandchildren she looks after, and she's on the school board. So she wears a lot of hats too. So she's busy. So what I would ask you to do, send a text message first and just say, Thomas, if it's you, just say, this is Thomas Lamb. Please give me a call when you can. Again, Caroline, my number is 910-633-4816. Dr. Revis, give them your number.
And mine is 828-674-9981. 828-674-9981. And yes, please text first. Tell me who you are. You're in my MSA 601, and I will get back to you as quickly as I possibly can.
And I will too. And the reason I say don't call, because sometimes I may be in a meeting or whatever, but when I get out of the meeting, I will try. Or if you're in the classroom, just say, can you call me at such and such a time if it's your break time or whatever? I will try to work it in there. And if I can't, I'll tell you, but I'll tell you when I can, and we'll work something out. Okay. So, but if we will work with you. But I want you to promise me that you'll hang in there, that you'll do this, and that you will allow Dr. Revis and me to show you how you can do this and you can make it work. It's going to be tough to begin with. I'm not going to tell you it's not going to be tough, but once you figure it out, everything's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Now, we're going to, there are those, and we don't want you to overthink it. Now, we're going to hang around for a few minutes and we're going to answer questions, but I don't want you to go past what we want you to do right now. All I want you to do, or we want you to do, is to think about what we've told you up to this point. You cannot eat the whole elephant. Remember, we've just given you a bite of it. That's all we want you to work with. Now, if you work with us and do this, by the end of 15 weeks, you will have eaten the whole elephant. And, and we're going to show you how to do it, a bite at a time. So those of you that where you are, again, you'll hear some repetition again on Thursday night, and that's okay. That's important. It's important if you can be with us on Thursday night, because again, we're going to introduce the whole elephant to you, but you'll see how all of what we've said tonight aligns with the end results of what the AAPSL is going to look like when you get through with it. You're going to be so proud of yourselves when you get through with it.
Guys, just don't get overwhelmed Thursday night, because it's going to be a lot of information, but we're just giving you an overview of the entire evidence. Just, if some people like to see the end result, where am I going? They have to know that. Some people are, no, I don't want to see anything other than what I've got to do today and tomorrow and the next day. So, if you're that kind of person, just block it out. Just look at task 1. But a lot of us have to see the whole thing. I think most people like to see the whole thing. Most of us are that kind of learner, and then back up and do it piecemeal. So we've got some questions in the chat box.
Let's do this first, Dr. Revis. If you are comfortable and you know where you are, you can hang around. If you're comfortable, then you can sign out, and we'll see you on Thursday. The others, we will try to answer your questions this evening.
Okay, so I've got a question from Larry. He's working in an alternative school, and it's for alternative school for students with disruptive behavior. And there's only one teacher per grade level. He happens to be social studies. So who's he going to work with? I would say, Larry, we've had this before.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, you need to either work with your ELA or your math teacher. I would suggest one or the other. And then I would also pull in, if there is an instructional coach, I would pull that person in. Or if you have an assistant principal, I would pull that person in. You need to have 3 to 4 members, 3 members besides yourself, 4 total. Now, they may not all can meet with you every time, and that's okay. If you can only meet with 2 of them, you've got 3 more on your team, and only 2 of them can be there the day you schedule it, you go on and meet with them. Okay? I would not get much larger than 4 plus myself. I wouldn't go much larger than that. But you can do it as small as 3 plus yourself. And that way, if somebody's absent, you can keep rocking. And I think I just answered probably another question. The PowerPoint is in week 1. If you'll scroll down to the bottom, we have lots of links of different things. And again, feel free to use that with your PLC.
And to the recording for tonight will be placed under week 1 as well in Blackboard, so you can always go back and refer to it.
And I like to place the agenda, and then I'll put the recording of the class.
Somebody asked, when will we start our internship with our principals? Actually, you can go ahead and start. Tomorrow, yes, you can get started. But that usually starts after your CC1 has communicated with them, and but that doesn't mean you can't go ahead and do some things. But your CC1 will help them understand, and they say, yes, I accept this student and I will allow them to do, so and so. They've already said that to you, but the CC1 basically makes it official. Let's just go through. Adrian, what's your question? Unmute yourself.
Thank you. I muted. So I want to piggyback off what you just said. I haven't gotten an email from my CC1, I guess.
You may not have gotten one. I've got 6 people and I haven't sent anything out yet.
I haven't either, Adrian.
I will probably work on that tonight.
So we don't have to wait for that in order to set up this PLC.
No.
No.
No. You go ahead and take the initiative and move forward.
So as far as the PLC, we have PLCs weekly already for math and ELA. Our curriculum person does that. So it would be kind of like a repetitious thing. We talk about all the data and all that stuff. So I would have to come up with something else, right?
Something new. And
Okay.
what you do, all of you, your approach should be, I am an extra hand for the school right now. What is something that you would like to be addressed that we just haven't had time to address?
Okay, good. Yeah.
I'm a new person. I'm one more extension of that. So that one thing that you haven't gotten to, I'm willing to do that.
Okay. Good.
But Adrian, make sure they don't lead you down the path of looking at student attendance or behavior.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've got some more questions in the chat box. Dr. Stedman, somebody's saying that they're in your class but didn't see the name on that list that you showed. You want to explain that?
Who is that person?
I think that's Douglas Pearson.
Okay, Douglas, I will get with you and I will figure that out.
And Dr. Stedman has 2 classes. He only showed you for 1.
I only showed, that was only for my C2 class. The C6 class, you have to go to that shell and you will look for your name under Zoom Teams. So, but I will look and make sure, Douglas. Which class are you in, Douglas? You in C6?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But we'll handle it though. Quintina, what is your question?
Since I'm located in a middle school setting, but my internship supervisor is in the high school, which group should I focus my PLC on, middle or high?
Quintina, I think you're my student, so
yeah.
First of all, your internship supervisor should be at the school in which you're working.
Well,
Okay.
the problem is with that's my supervisor, my principal is a new principal. And
Okay.
she declined wanting to take on anyone for internship because she knew this is her first year ever being a principal.
Is there an assistant principal who works there?
New to.
Pardon me?
He's new also.
Oh,
Your supervisor must be one of your administrators that work at that school, though. So your CC1, Dr. Revis,
Now they
need to
are
find
doing it,
out-
they're doing it as a team. She's willing to work with the head administrator.
okay, your CC1 needs to help with that, Dr. Revis.
Has your CC1 contacted you yet?
No,
Quintina
Okay.
just joined us yesterday.
yes.
That's right. That's right. Quintina, you gotta, there's no way you can get all your hours in if you're having to leave your middle school and go to your high school. There is no way.
They side by
You're
side.
going to have to grab every moment you can to do your clinical work in your school. Part of your clinical work is when you're working with your PLC. Okay. So it's not going to work for you to have a supervisor at the high school. So we've got, I bet she's not even on our list that we got from Dr. Lamb Monday night.
Quintina, where's your school, Quintina?
In Williamsburg County, but they're not that far from each other. So what?
Okay, but you have to, your supervisor has to be at the school where you work.
Okay.
I will look
Okay.
on that list and see if I can find out who your supervisor, who your CC1 is, and I will contact them and tell them your situation.
And
Okay.
then Dr. Revis, if necessary, you can Zoom with Quintina and the CC1, the three of you, and work this out.
Yeah, we'll get it worked out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Tremaine,
you.
your question?
My question is kind of similar with the internship log. I've already started having MTSS meetings, IEP meetings, starting off this school year because I told my principal prior last year that I was going to be doing this. So is it too late to start docking stuff in the internship log? I mean, too early, I'm sorry.
No, you
Well-
can go ahead and document those things now. And then what we will do is just remember, you can't, your MTSS meetings and your IEP meetings, you can only count so many of them. You can't, there can only be so many hours that you can use for that, but you can go ahead and start doing that.
Oh yes, sir. I already read the 10 hours, 20
Okay.
hours. for this and
Okay,
all
gotcha.
that.
Okay, good. Yeah, but that's good, Tremaine.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
and the thing about it is, even if you haven't officially started doing your clinical work, if you did anything in a leadership role at the beginning of school year, maybe help facilitate the faculty meeting or PLC or departmental meeting, you
Yes,
can count
ma'am.
that. You can go back and count it.
Yes, ma'am. We had a faculty meeting that she put me in charge of last week. That I had to create the agenda and all.
Okay, well and you save that agenda as an artifact with your name on it because you'll be able to use that.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you so much.
That's good. Wendy?
Hello. My question is, I am currently an EC case teacher, so I'm not in the classroom. I do compliance for a school district. I do have PLCs with my EC teachers, but my question is, I received a promotion and starting September the 25th, I'm going to be a compliance specialist and I will be over 2 school districts, which house between the 2 school districts, they're like 17 schools.
But you will need to, you still got to have a site supervisor. So who would your site supervisor be?
Before it was one of our assistant principals at my payroll school, but she also got promoted and now she has her own school. Could I pool?
Is she going to be one of your schools?
No.
Okay, you need to find a school that you're going to be at a lot.
Okay, the one I'll be at.
The most, and then you need to ask that principal, would they serve as your supervisor? And that's where you would need to form your PLC and do your work. Your work has to be for one school.
Mm-hmm. And see the school districts that I will be over after September the 25th is not the current school district I'm in. So should I go ahead and reach out to someone at one of the other school districts, or can I start with?
I would reach out if I could. Because you don't want to have to redo work. I would reach out to them because September's going to be here before you know it. And if I could get started and work it out in my schedule to get it there, Dr. Revis, wouldn't you go ahead and get started where you're going to end up at in September?
Yeah, if you can. Yeah. If you can.
Wendy, I think your life would be easier if you did that.
Mhm. It would
Okay.
make more sense because you're going to be
Yeah.
right in the middle of this work when you transfer over.
Right.
So if you could go ahead and start working with your PLC at one of those sites, that would be great. You know, you're going to have to do clinical somewhere. You can't wait until September 25th to do clinical. You'll get too far behind.
Okay.
And then
Thank
some of what you will be doing, you can figure out, but some of what you'll be doing in that leadership role will help you anyway with your clinical work, Wendy. Okay. Elizabeth?
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Stedman and Dr. Revis. I have a question about, and I put it in chat, but I am a literacy coach currently, and so we are in week 4 of our school year. And so thinking that it needs to be a new PLC, I was
Okay.
thinking,
Let me ask you this before you get started. Do you have to lead PLCs anyway?
yes, sir.
Okay, you're an exception to the rule as a literacy
Okay.
coach.
Okay.
We can work with you with one of your existing ones because you're just getting started.
Okay, great.
What you will go back and do is
do the
recreate.
norms and everything like that.
You just
Okay.
go back and you've already probably got all that, which is to your advantage. You
Okay.
know,
Okay. So we're also a smaller school. We work, our grades are also departmentalized in grades 3, 4, and 5. So to work with that 3-person, 4-person window, is it appropriate to combine grades 3 and 4 if need be?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And then I have a secondary question that's kind of with how the weekly template works. If we're working on the reading pieces, do we work ahead and look at week 2 for the readings that need to be done? Or are we focused on like the readings for each week? Does that make sense? Am I asking that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Revis.
Well, for this week, you look under week 1, and that's what your reading is. Depending on the amount of time you have or whatever, you get to them either this week or next week. Okay. It just depends on how much time you have.
Okay,
And,
great.
Elizabeth,
Thank
what
you.
y'all will figure out is with your reading, because it's more independent, we will begin talking about this later on, but the reading, actually, we look for evidence of your reading, professional reading in the Zoom teams and in your Zoom assignments and in your case studies, and because we should hear the language spoken and the references made when you're doing that professional dialogue with your teams. And we'll talk about that more. But yes, you go ahead and do your reading now and pace yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Alicia?
Hi, and thank you, Elizabeth. You kind of helped me answer one of my questions. So I too also am at a small school. It's a middle school just with 7th and 8th. So team-wise, because it's very few teachers, I guess, with the group, I need to combine 7th and 8th. Can it, like I teach math, so if I focused on something PLC math-wise, even though there's only 3 other math teachers besides me?
Okay, but Alicia, it could be math teachers. You could pull your counselor in there. You could pull a literacy coach in there. You could pull an assistant principal in there. Your team doesn't have to be just math teachers.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
All right, pull some other folks. Okay.
Dr. Stedman, can we go ahead and I've got Joshua here. He's had a question in the chat.
Go ahead.
So Joshua, we have a lot of performing arts teachers in our program. you know, can I look at student achievement in the arts? Do you have standardized assessments
We don't
in
have
the arts?
assessments, but we do have auditions for the South Carolina Governor's School for Arts and Humanities to use the data from that. We also have CPA, which is Concert Performance Assessment, which is done in the spring for our music areas, and so I could utilize that data and then determine what progress needs to be made and to improve student achievement there as well. So
Okay.
I think through
Now-
those options.
And I understand all that, but here's what I'm going to tell you. You're going to be a school principal. What kind of data are you going to look at as a school principal? Reading, ELA, math, science. You got to learn how to get out of that comfort zone, and we're pushing you out, right? So the answer to your question is no. You've got to look at state assessments.
Okay.
Because when you're a principal, and I will tell you this, I have seen some arts teachers just go wild over this data because they've never seen it, never had to work with it, and you're gonna really enjoy getting to know all about this. I mean, you know some, of course. You can't exist in a school and not know something about state assessments, but yeah, you got to get into those state assessment areas, and it's going to push you way out of your comfort zone. I got it, but
No
you
worries.
got to get there.
Taught math before as well, so we're good.
Yeah,
Okay,
but Joshua,
all right.
Because that would help me towards my current job that I'm trying to make sure that I grow in that area as well.
But Joshua, I
Great.
appreciate your passion for the arts because I love the arts. I have a son in New York in the arts, so I'm very,
I'm
very
with you.
passionate about it. So, okay, Mayra.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking my question. My question is very similar to some of the other teachers who have mentioned. I work as an intervention coordinator, so my job is to look at student performance, and so I do have like weekly meetings with my teachers, and so is that
Okay,
something?
let me ask you this: how long have you been in school?
We've been in school about 3 weeks now.
3 weeks now. Have you started leading a PLC with one of those teams?
Today was our very first meeting.
Okay, but then you can count that as
Okay.
long as it's dealing with student achievement and looking at test results. So I would say yes, move forward with what you're working with.
Okay.
Okay.
My other question was I wasn't able to attend the town meeting. Is that recorded and shared
No,
somewhere?
you're okay.
Okay.
You're okay. It was just a general hello and just right. So you're okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Jeffrey?
Hey, Dr. Sedman, I just had a question. I was trying to find that PowerPoint in Blackboard, but I could not find it about the PLC.
Okay. Go
Look
ahead.
at week 2. Look in week 2. It may be there.
Yeah. I think that's where it is, Dr. Ravis, and it's under week 2.
I think I moved it to week 1. For my students,
and I did
week
not.
1.
So Jeffrey, it's under week 2.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, I'll move it under later on. I'll move it under week 1 as well. Okay.
Thank you.
I just moved it right before class, Dr. Stedman.
I think I meant to, and I just didn't do it. I knew it was there because we had talked about that we were going to go ahead and do it tonight, and I think it was an oversight on my part. Anybody unmute yourself if we have not answered your question.
I see Alicia's hand still up.
Okay. Okay. DeQuisha,
Okay. Thank you,
DeQuisha,
Alicia.
you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm, similar to everyone else's, I'm currently a school counselor, but I also am the department chair. Haven't started any PLC meetings yet, but this will be my first time leading the PLC meetings. Is it okay to use that as long as it is about student learning data?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Because you're just getting, most of you are at a good place because school has just started. So, go ahead, Dr.
But DeQuisha, let me use a caveat.
Okay.
Okay.
I think if you're gonna look, did you say middle school or high school?
High school.
Let's say you're gonna look at English 1 data.
Mm-hmm.
I would invite an English 1 teacher in
Okay.
just for their expertise, okay, in the data and in the standards.
Right.
I think that would really, I think you really need to have that. And they need to see you as working in data, their kind of data. You know, teachers see counselors working in a lot of testing data, particularly as it, you know, relates to IQ tests and SATs and ACTs, but they don't kind of see counselors working with their content data. So I think that would be a good thing for them to see you be able to talk that with them.
Okay. I definitely agree.
Okay.
Okay. Brandon?
Yes, I just want to get confirmation. So if I go to my principal and explain to them that I need to, be able to run a PLC, and if, they already have somebody running it, like a MCL or a CF, I'm allowed to create my own PLC with some members outside of the school hours, correct?
With us? Yes. If after school, a lot of them can occur after school hours anyway. But it has to be with their blessings.
Okay.
Right. And it has to be, Brennan, what do you teach?
All the subjects, 3rd grade.
Okay. Yeah. But it needs to, you know, be around your 3rd grade reading or math. Okay.
And I would think, Brandon, that you talk first, and then when your CC1 does that meeting together, then bring that up and let your CC1 help you with that. And when you get your invitation from your CC1, go ahead and contact them and go ahead and get that meeting set up as quickly as possible.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Are there others?
I asked a question earlier. This is Adrian, but I just have a question because I just thought of it. So my principal is my supervisor, but I can work with other people like the curriculum coach, right?
Sure.
Because she does a lot of the PLCs, but maybe I can get her to let me in on some of them so I can run on some of them, so I can actually do some of them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But make sure that you've got the blessings of the principal no matter what.
Right.
Okay. Okay, others.
Alicia, I'm with you, girl. I am worn out. I saw the big yawn.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead,
Jessica.
Jessica.
I've seen some other people in the chat too. I'm a self-contained special ed teacher. And so my students, I have 2nd and 4th this year, but they are on a non-diploma track. So we work on last year's we had there's 3 self-contained teachers at my school, and we had a PLC, and we kind of just we made up what we thought were the essential standards, looking at ELA specifically, and our move towards this year was going to be creating and finding assessments and things that we can look at, because since most of our kids either take the SC Alt assessment or like not SC ready or things like that, but we do take different like we have FMP or STAR, things like that. But I guess for the people that I work closest with, I would say we don't have data like that would come on the report card. So I guess my question is, what data would you suggest that we look at if we are self-contained?
Okay, Jessica, I'm going to pull a Dr. Revis now. We're going to push you out of your comfort zone. You work with exceptional children. You need to get away from working with exceptional children with your PLC, get out of your comfort zone and go into something that is new and unfamiliar to you, and learn that, because when you become a principal, assistant principal, you're going to be working with a lot of children that are not exceptional children. You know what I mean? Not like you work with. So your focus needs to be away from what you do on a daily basis.
So then do you suggest I just pick like third grade math and try to just look at that?
Go ahead, Dr. Ravis.
I would say if you teach fourth grade, I think it would be advantageous to you to, pick fourth grade reading or math.
Okay.
And you can see the content standards, and then, you can internalize how those are modified for you, but that's not the focus of your PLC. But I mean, you can use any grade level you wish that's in your school that has that standardized assessment.
Okay.
So again, Jessica, the big thing is to look at what is measured by a state test, normed by a state test.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to go back always to your EOGs or your EOCs.
Okay.
Something like that. Randy?
Thank you.
Yes. I teach literacy 5th grade. We departmentalize 3 through 5. And I led a PLC today with my 5th grade math teacher, a TA that's with us and that. But I didn't know, suggestion wise, should I focus with like my 5th grade team aspect, or my other idea was to create a PLC with the literacy 3rd grade teacher, literacy 4th grade teacher, and then look at like the data across 3-5 from reading and look at like commonalities and like data like that. Is that the route I should be looking
You're
at?
going in the right direction, Randy. I'm proud of that. The thing is, don't focus on what the problem is yet. So see, you say math, you say literacy. Once you get into beyond your research, setting up your PLC or whatever, when you get into the data dive, it's going to surprise you. And many of you will find that what you think the big problems are may not always be the big problems. And then your principal, I mean, you're going to actually, you and your team are going to say, once you do the full data dive, you're going to say, there's going to be some discoveries made. And you're going to present to your administration, you can say, this is what the team and I have found. Now, if it's, based on that, you're going to say, this is what we would like to do. Your principal may say, you've got my blessings, move forward. But your principal may say, we've got enough of that going on already. This is what I want you to do. And that's what you end up having to do.
Okay,
but you're going in the right direction.
If I were a principal, Randy, I would love that.
Yes.
I would love that. So I would say go with that as your first suggestion and see if that flies.
I love it.
Okay,
you're thinking well in the right direction.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, Brandon, do you have another question? Okay, I think Brandon's.
Okay, no, sir, I'm good right now.
Okay,
I'm good.
good.
I don't know why my hand. I didn't put my hand down.
That's okay. Okay, anything else before we sign out?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, Catherine.
So I am also a self-contained. I'm also a self-contained high school teacher, but my high school has the largest multilingual population in the state of South Carolina. So can I potentially do a PLC with our ESOL population and look at the access assessment results?
Dr. Revis, I think that might be doable. She might want to talk with you more about it, but I think that might be doable. I think I have actually done that before.
I would say if you're going to form a PLC, to look at your ESL data. I would not use access. I would use their performance on the state assessments. Okay.
But now in your data dive, you can talk about access.
Yeah, yeah. That could be one of your data points that you look
Right.
at.
Yeah.
But our goal is for those students to learn the grade level content and to be tested on that grade level content. And so we've got to get them in there, and we've got to do whatever we need to do. And that would be some good research. What do multilingual learners need in order to support them to access grade level content?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Douglas, did you find your name? Did you find your name on the Zoom team? Douglas, I can't hear you.
I did see my name on a Zoom team, team 2, but I
Okay.
was just, my concern was the instructor.
The what now?
What is it saying?
It says Dr. Stedman, but somebody put in the chat that I was on 6, so I think I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
I have 2 and 6, so you're with me if you're in 6.
Okay.
So you're good. You
Okay.
belong to me, Douglas.
That's good.
Okay. So Dina
Guys,
Marie,
anything else?
Dina Marie, okay. Let me ask you something though. Unmute Dina. So
Yes.
you started as an AP already this year.
Yes, I was an MTSS coordinator and intervention specialist for about 3 years. And the position came up in Iredell, Statesville, and I worked with a principal who really pushed me to take on more leadership responsibilities. So I decided to apply for the position. If anything, it was just going to give me some great interview experience, something I can learn from. And then they offered me the position. So
wonderful.
When it comes to your internship, I mean, that's gonna be easy for you because it's what you're gonna be doing anyway.
Right. Well, like I said, I was a little concerned with taking this, master's course and now having to fulfill the job responsibilities as an assistant principal, but I have an amazing principal that I work with. She is understanding. I really work with a great team. They're very supportive. So I feel good going into this.
You're going to do well.
Like I have a good direction, and I feel pretty confident.
You'll do well. And we've had several people just like you, and they were very successful in the program. So you're going to do well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just trying to listen to other questions just to make sure that I have all the information, but I think I do. I had spoken with Dr. Lamb when I first applied to the program, and he gave me some things to look at, so it was good. So I was able to preview some things and put some, think about some things before moving forward. I was going to use like my MTSS experience because, again, looking at the whole school's data, that would have been pretty easy. I was already doing the PLCs, so that would have been easy. But this will give me a new opportunity to lead and learn something different. So I'm looking forward to that challenge as well.
That's a good perspective on it.
Yes,
that's really great.
yes.
Great. Okay, good.
But
Alicia,
thank you for tonight. I enjoyed it.
thank you so much, Dina.
Yes, thank you. Bye, Dr. Revis.
Bye.
Okay, Alicia, you have a question?
Yes, so I'm just here jotting away. I'm thinking about these teams and my small school that I'm in. The data, because this is my second year at this particular school, the data that is, I guess, widely used in the school looking at student data is the map. Are you familiar with map? So do I need to try to use some other form of data? I guess as far as, I guess I'm thinking about the concept of the new, what the focus should be.
Okay, remember you're not looking at your problem yet. You got to do your data dive, and that doesn't come until you get to task 2, Dr. Revis. Task 2.
Right. Task 2 is your data. So I would say right now, map is most certainly going to be a piece of that data you will look at, but you'll also look at other data sets. So think more about right now, what team can you put together to dive into data, who will be willing to work with you on a weekly basis. And you may already know that at my school I know math's an issue because my principal talks about it all the time. And so when you do your data dive, you're going to look at multiple types of data, and you're going to delve into it to see, is it a particular curriculum strand where our students are not doing well? Is it a grade level? Is it, whatever?
Okay.
So it's going to, give you the PLC, or you could just leave the PLC open and look at your math and reading data and then decide which way to go.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I guess
get you a good group who are willing to work with you. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I've got I literally wrote down the list of the names of the teachers and stuff, and I would love to work with our special ed teacher. I feel like she's done a really good job as far as working with the teachers, and not just those teachers of students that she serves, but just my experience with her this past year, and just her willingness to, oh, you need something, or, this idea. So I definitely got her on my radar. I guess I'm just trying to figure out that piece, like you said, getting my head wrapped around like other data. Like for me, I go the extra mile and I use the AAPSL data with my math, where some teachers, they just, oh, here's the program, go in there and do it. But I literally take the time to have my students take the diagnostic, and the pretest can take a while, but once they get that in, I always have my students every year to create a bar graph of their diagnostic scores. And then at the end of every quarter, I assess them again. And so just looking at, so that they have that record of their own personal growth throughout the year. So
is map data your does it come out on your school report card, or is that something else?
I don't believe the map comes out on the school report card. So
you might want to look at what comes out on your school report card. That would be the data set that, rather than the AAPSL, I would look at map plus my school report card data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Use,
because if you're the only one using that program diagnostically, you're not going to have a lot of data to look at in your PLC.
Okay. All right.
Well, Dr. Stedman, I'm worn
Let me
out.
see, Octavia, do you see your name? You are on a Zoom team. I knew you were. Octavia?
Okay.
I don't see it there.
I see her name, but yeah, I don't.
Oh, I see you. Yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
I'm here.
Do you see, you are on a Zoom team.
I
You're
am.
on team
Octavia?
one. Do you see it? Team one.
Okay, it wasn't there earlier.
Yes, it was. It's always been there. I don't know. You just must have looked at it wrong because I just went right to it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, I think I'm done bugging you guys now.
Okay, that's good, Alicia. Okay.
All right.
Have a good week.
Have a great evening. Thank
You too.
Dr. Revis, I'm going to have to go ahead and get started with, okay, it's just you and me now. Recording.
You cut recording off?
It's going to take no, let me do this. We don't need to talk, do we? Or do you think?
I'm worn out.
Worn out. We'll talk tomorrow, okay?
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.